Thank you, Kitty. Wanted to just appreciate that last group, what extraordinary women. And now we're going to move into our transformative culture panel, and where this is a group of, well, actually many groups from diverse range of sectors that have been working for years, and in some cases decades, on solutions and new models for social and personal and social transformation. During this session, which is coming up shortly, monitored by Michael Gosney, we're going to be defining transformative culture and give an overview of the wide range of organizations and initiatives that are moving in this direction. And they're moving the needle. We're really actually, it's shifting. We are in the shift right now. This is the great turning. So it's very exciting to be converging together as we kind of come down into the 0 point of the torus and coming to this point of manifestation. And we're going to hear some details from these exemplary projects that all of these different speakers are involved in. And they're going to bring us to the place where we're going to have a call to action of like, what is it that turns you on, that is your gift that you want to give, and how you can give it, and how you can really help, just really help push this through the birth canal so that we come into a regenerative new life for all of us. So without further ado, I'm going to pass this on to Michael Gosney, who's going to moderate our transformative culture panel. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Sandra. And so, yeah, we want to jump right in. I will just briefly introduce our panelists. John Raymer has been for many, many years on the forefront of social change. He has got a remarkable instinct and talent for creating new ways to connect people. And he's going to elaborate a little bit on that. And as part of that overview, it's really important for us all to understand how many organizations and initiatives are going on all over the world. There's ways for all of us to contribute. It does start with our personal intention, but it's also very much about taking action in the world and contributing to a cause that's close to your heart, starting your own initiative. There's so many ways to be involved. And I like to say, it's much more fun to participate in our evolution as a species than stand on the sidelines. So Lucien Tarnowski and Gina Bria both will share with us their projects. In Lucien's case, United Planet, the Up Game. He's going to share a little bit about that, and that has to do with motivating people to make changes, to connect. Gina Bria is working in more of a personal transformational area, and that is water and hydration and the health of our bodies, the health of our planet, with water as the common vibration, the common resource that we all share. So John, maybe let's just jump right in, and I'd love you, given your informed bird's eye view perspective on transformative culture, perhaps you could give us your thoughts on how we define that. And we do have our definition for what that means, transformative culture, that may be different from what other groups consider those words to mean.
Yeah, well, I think transformative culture has been transformed. I think we're finding ourselves in really a new world. And we're in that space between no longer and not yet. But it's emergent and it's happening. And that's what I'm here to gladly share, is the first, reports from the edge on what new kind of events are possible. We're in the middle of, it's World Unity Week. The Sign Network and many others are convening what we're calling a multi-Zoom convergence to mobilize a world unity movement. A multi-Zoom convergence to mobilize a world unity movement. And there are 20 of these convergence rooms as well as a main hall. And topics like the divine and sacred, masculine and feminine, and justice and peace. I mean, the list goes on. We have so many amazing people who are in sense of this moment, like we all are, that this is a moment not to be missed. There's no time to rush. and we're learning, and it's happening. Indigenous-led ceremony yesterday around the world. People coming into these rooms. We are doing what we call scaffolding, building the scaffolding, which is about collective empowerment. Tactically, let me explain. I'm an admin through the Sign Network on over 200 Facebook pages, including Earthdance Global now. Now, why is that interesting? Because it's trusted sharing. We're actually empowering each other. Marshall Gans says that leaders are people who accept responsibility for enabling others to achieve purpose in the face of uncertainty. This collaborative alliance is empowering each other in the process. So when Sign members start a stream, we turn a stream into a wave by sharing. So with Uplift and Unify, thousands of these streams have been released just in the last 48 hours, and it's going to be going on for this entire week. So there's a main hall that has a convergence room in it where you can go and see what's coming there. But then there's also all these topical rooms and the engagements there. We have massive, these Trello boards that people are posting what they're going to be hosting sessions about. And we're doing 6 open space sessions virtually during the week. So anyone can come and host a topic. If you got an idea for how we're going to build this movement together, a mobilization of world unity movement, we want you to hear your voice. One of the most important things, Michael, we've learned is groups often become insular and people feel like they can't get into the center. We're trying to keep an active core with an open periphery and inviting everyone. The Poor People's Campaign, Black Lives Matter, we put out a statement about that, how important that is. And we're all convening there. There are folks here from all over. I mean, Deepak Chopra and Marianne Williams, and the list goes on, but not just well-known voices, voices for everyone convening together. I've never seen anything like it. And I don't know, you know, we're making mistakes, I'm sure. We're going to learn things, but we're really all pushing ourselves to build this collective scaffolding to enable, to empower each other, to come together for behavior change at scale, leading towards another one in September around the International Day of Peace to launch a decade devoted to achieving the global goals and creating peace on Earth by 2030.
Well, John, you know, I want to call attention to the Compassion Games, which you started some 6 years ago.
8 years ago.
8 years ago already, which has been just a remarkable example of networking and motivating people. Could you just give us a quick 1 minute?
Okay, here's the story. So we started Compassion Cities in the Compassion Games. We served 20 million people, but then David Gershon, one of our Sign members, said, John, getting people to do nice, kind things, that's really great, isn't going to make any difference. Mm-hmm. He said, we need behavior change at scale. And I knew he was right. That's why we started, out of the Compassion Games, grew this league of super teams that are cooperating in unprecedented unified action. I got so sick of everyone saying they want to work together and really doing nothing together. As a musician, I know that playing at the same time isn't the same as playing together. So just by the simple act of creating an agreement in which we trust each other's assets to build audience, we've been able to demonstrate that we're so much better together. So the Compassion Games are still going on. In fact, the Synergy Games have been launched with mayor from Louisville, Kentucky, and mayors around the world in the Synergy Challenge. But the truth
is compassiongames.org, is that the URL?
Yep, Compassion, and go to the synergygames.org. We're about to announce during World Unity Week.
All right, cool.
And worldunityweek.org.
Let's thank you so much, John. And there's so much, you know, we could sit here for 3 hours talking about all these things, but we just wanted to give an overview of perspective. And let's hear from Lucien Tarnowski right now, who is just doing such an amazing job of bringing people together, and his current project, United Planet. Maybe Lucien, you could share a little bit with us about how that's going. You'll need to unmute, Lucien. Oh, we're still not hearing you, Lucien, for some reason. Well, I'll tell you what, let's Gina, why don't you tell us about your work right now, and we'll finish with Lucien, since we're a little bit tight on our time.
Yes, thank you, Michael. Thank you so much for the opportunity to open a door. As a cultural anthropologist, I get to talk about, and with 25 years of work on ritual around the world, and the role of ritual and what it is and why you need ritual to transform, I looked at what are the elements of transform, what is transformation? And that's such a key question. And I was so surprised to discover that there's 3 elements, and they're surprising elements. And the first element is water. And then the second element for transformation, the needed elements, water, a body. And the third is consciousness. So when we link those 3 together through hydration, some extraordinary transformation, then we are able to gain that behavior change, that new identity. And the work that I do, not only as a cultural anthropologist, but now deeply into the water science of water molecules and how water is an information transfer network that's a global network and allows us to step into consciousness in new forms that we, in a dehydrated culture, are unaware of what low consciousness we're operating on because we don't have the water to support us. So these are some really unusual ideas. I think consciousness also looking at holding that idea. So I'll just repeat again so we can have this framework or scaffolding, as John was talking about, to think through our ideas. Water, body, consciousness. And why a body? I think consciousness, the elements of consciousness are the need to express itself, the need to manifest itself, or a word I like to use, materialize itself. So water is that medium which allows consciousness to materialize itself. And that's fascinating news, because if we now take ourselves as water bodies and we take our opportunity to hydrate ourselves more profoundly than we do in a very dehydrated environments that we live in, we're going to raise our ability, our consciousness, to new levels of materialization. So I'd love to dialogue back and forth, just letting those words out and hearing what people think.
Thank you so much. Yeah, there's a close relationship between water and consciousness, you know. It's kind of our ectoplasm of the biosphere, you know, water. It's remarkable. Well,
Michael, if I can thread some new information in that people might not be aware of. One of the foremost scientists that I work with, water scientists, is Gerald Pollack, who identified a stage of water that we were just not aware of. It isn't that it's a new stage, it's that it's been recently identified. And that's the liquid crystalline stage.
Yes.
That blows everything wide open, because now I work with, and I bet John knows some of these people who are trying to do quantum computers, paralleling silicon computers, but using the water molecule, because it turns out the water molecules together, gathered, can hold and disperse and broadcast more information than silicon. And yet that's us. We're
us, exactly.
walking water computers, right?
That's it. That's right.
So
that's
what
awesome.
the heck? We can flip on all sorts of switches in ourselves that we didn't even know existed just by hydration. And that's very interesting. I think it's very sexy. It's alive. It's what are we talking about now? So now I have to come into the conversation through water.
Your project, and what's the URL again for?
Yes, so I'm at hydrationfoundation.org. It's easy to remember because it rhymes. I'm a nonprofit. Our work is hydrating people, plants, and animals and soils more profoundly using liquid crystalline state water, which is just a simple shift in the molecules so that they begin creating voltage when you get the waters close enough.
I know people can find out more on your website about that. So thank you so much for sharing. This project is one of so many.
Yes.
It's an example of the kinds of projects that people can get involved in. All right. Well, Lucien.
I think you can hear me.
Yeah.
Right, Michael? Great, great. Such a pleasure to be here. And yeah, John, you've such an elder in our space. Deeply appreciate your work. Thank you, thank you. And yeah, delighted to be here for Earthdance. I'm a very passionate, ecstatic dancer. And just so many, this is such a timely conversation. I think what you just described, Gina, and water as a living system, it's like that, what a demonstration of transformative culture. Just the way we're learning that and learning about the just fractal nature of everything. I find it amazing. So yeah, so some background. Thank you, Michael, for the invitation. So just in short, the unified planet is, we're just at the very, very beginning of a journey we believe will go on for at least 7 generations, and more to follow is our prayer. But it's really this question of how do we meet this moment? How do we recognize that this is the most important civilizational pivot point in the history of the planet? In that we are like in the front row seats of perhaps the greatest show on the galaxy right now, planet Earth, the cosmic periscope. If you could compare Earth to a TV show, it would be Game of Thrones final episode right now. And it's like, will they make it? Won't they make it? It's a very, very potent time to live on planet Earth. And I don't think it's random that we're here. In the same way as the Old Testament was a prophecy for the New Testament, the New Testament is a prophecy for the Now Testament, like what's happening right now. And so the unified planet is really it's an organization, it's a movement all around how do we return to community? How do we lead with love and return to community and create a civilization in harmony with all life, a thriving civilization in harmony with all life? And so how we do that, we went on a similar journey. I spent 12 years designing online communities for social change, and really saw that, a bit like what John was saying, people playing music at the same time is not the same thing as playing together. And I saw, we work with all sorts of different multi-stakeholder communities and saw that the biggest problem here was connecting the dots. Like we have an abundance of bricks and a lack of mortar. We have, an abundance of silos and a real lack of the mycelium web to connect them. And so similar to Buckminster Fuller, I believe, like many of us do, you don't change things by fighting the existing model. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. And just like Bucky, and I'm sure John here and many of us others concluded that the best kind of sniper move here, the best strategic move, is to use games, because it's in play that our inner child is permissioned to come to the forefront. It's in play that our creativity and our kind of lens of possibility is at maximum spectrum. And so we also created a game, and you can think of this as a kind of a fractal of what Bucky called the New World Game. But it's called the Up Game, the Unified Planet Game. It's just up.game is the website, www.up.game. And it's just one flavor of the game right now that we've been starting with. We launched on Earth Day. And what we've done is we take, think of it as like being a sniper aiming for the acupuncture spots of high leverage transformative change. And so we started with Sound for Health, and we brought together 22 sound experts, sound practitioners, a combined total of 432 years of sound experience. And we took them on an 8-week journey from seed to sprout to blossom to harvest, 1 week on, 1 week off. Half of the time we met was all about yin. It's all about deeply connecting with oneself, doing breath work, doing sound practices, etc. And then the other half is all about yang. It's about applying our collective intelligence for collective action. And so we went on a journey, and we just got to harvest on Friday. and we formed the Unified Planet Sound Alliance, the Unified Planet Sound Technology Guild, and the Sound Portal Guild. And so these are now kicking off new games. So it's a kind of infinite game. And it's all around self-organizing collective intelligence. It's all around creating the format and the incentives for people to work together to demonstrate this thing that we all know to be true, which is cooperation outperforms competition. Yet we have an incentive design of the existing system that prioritizes competition. And so what we've been doing is we want to prove that cooperation outperforms competition. And so we do that by bringing together these groups of experts, taking them on a kind of accelerated journey all around identifying community solutions for the planetary commons. We really believe in this concept of the planetary commons. Many call it the participatory commons, but think of it as a full stack through society, the Linux of the planet. All aspects of society. We're going to have the healthcare system, the education system, the food system, the energy system, all in the commons. And so what we're interested in is those high leverage, fundable solutions for the commons. And so we started with sound, and then we went to food, and then our latest is community impact.
So Lucien, that's fantastic. Yeah. Are you going to aggregate the results of all of those series that you're doing on the up.game website?
Yeah, so think of the Unified Planet as in one aspect, it's kind of almost like a media platform. We now have 60 people coming together every week for 400 hours of co-creation to like apply their collective intelligence around there. So we create an immense amount of content, and we're thinking that content can be used for like educational expeditions, but ultimately we're interested in creating a game that can transform society. And many of us are doing this, and we believe that we need as many experiments as possible. And the best thing about a game is it's an amazing place to experiment it on the macro in the micro.
Yeah.
Because you get this like small group of like 12 to 20 people to go deep into community and, you know, being deeply connected and having that shared purpose.
Well, that's fantastic. And it's wonderful to know that we can track the progress of the up game as it evolves, again, at up.game.
Yeah, and Facebook and YouTube and all the rest of it. We live stream everything.
Wonderful. Well, it's kind of cool that you started with sound as one of your first areas to explore. And we're going to have to wrap up our panel here. It was short and sweet and hopefully of value to those who are watching us. Thank you so much, John, Gina, and Lucien, for sharing your insights and wonderful work with us.